Welcome to the Digital Marketing Podcast, brought to you by targetinternet.com. My name is Kieran Rogers.
I'm Louise Crossley.
And I'm Daniel Rolls.
And in this episode, we are talking about New Year's resolutions for marketers 2025.
Okay, so we've done this one a few years in the past. It's always gone down quite well, and it's a bit of a focus on what you should look at in the year ahead. But just before we were coming on to this, we were talking about energy levels.
Energy levels.
First of all, that was quite a high energy level, Kieran, of that introduction. We'll talk about a 1 to 10. But this came from the fact that I always have a go at Kieran about that was a bit much. Maybe tone it down.
He raises his eyebrows and I'm like,
yeah.
Sometimes he doesn't say it, but he looks at me. I don't know. And I just enjoy it because it's just like, let's see how high we can get those eyebrows. Honestly, just try it. And if you're not feeling it, just drink a lot of coffee and then try it. I found that helps.
I've never forgotten that CIM conference. Kieran was going onto stage. Were you not late onto stage as well because everything was delayed or something? And I think you'd had about 17 coffees.
That's why I'd had so much coffee because it's nice, isn't it? Conference coffee, it can be. The CIM's coffee is very good. Attend any of their events. It's a good coffee.
And you came onto stage and it was like a whirlwind had entered the room. It was effective. I mean,
first of all, the Viz aids failed horribly. And so then I had to resort to using my backup of paper, which I had a paper stack of the whole presentation you'd given me, which I hadn't learned. And then I dropped the stack of paper. And from that point on, I just thought, oh my God, like the dread. And I just thought, this can't get any worse. And
I can only imagine how terrified people in that audience must have been.
Honestly, them and me, we were like all in. I said it could have gone either way. And I just thought, well, it can't get any worse. I'm just gonna riff it. And actually,
I had nothing but nice things about that conference. They said, he's a force of energy. He's a force of energy.
Do you know what was the best thing? Was it was being compared by a childhood hero of mine, Mr. Andy Crane. If you're in anywhere else in the world, you won't know who Andy Crane is. But back in the day, Children's BBC, he was one of the broom cupboard presenters, and he loved it too.
Let's get back to digital marketing.
Yeah. The energy levels. Come on,
energy levels. Well, so where this gets into, some New Year's resolutions, and I think over the past 3 months, every conference I've been to, everywhere I go, everyone's speaking about AI. Okay, so it's like this constant. New announcements, AI. And one of the things that's really standing out for me when you do shows of hands is how many people have used ChatGPT, and everyone's hand goes up. How many people have actually delved into it, done advanced prompting, et cetera, et cetera. It's just such a small percentage still. And I think when this pace of change is this fast, you can't survive without being able to innovate, right? You need to be able to try new things, whether that's just a different type of social media post or radically changing your product. But the thing is, you can't innovate without a learning culture. And this is problematic in a lot of organizations still. Now, I would say this because I run a training company, so I'll caveat it a little bit. But it really sprung to life for me. I had a conversation 2 days ago where someone was talking about LinkedIn. And they were saying, oh, I hate LinkedIn. Oh, it's just people going, I'm proud to say that I've started this new job. And it's like, okay, maybe they are proud, so don't be so cynical about it. But I do get what people are saying. There's a lot of corporate speak in there, but I think it means you're just using LinkedIn wrong if that's your hang up with it. Now, people might disagree with this, but if you're just connected to a load of random people that you've randomly connected with because they've randomly chosen to connect to you or vice versa, you are going to get a lot of stuff that maybe isn't relevant. But actually, if you went in and curated your feed a little bit, who do you want to follow? Who do you want to listen to? Get inspiration from, learn from? I still think that LinkedIn is one of the biggest learning opportunities. And it's like how I used to use Twitter. I would go through Twitter, I'd follow some interesting people, and I would learn some interesting stuff. Whereas now it's just there's an awful lot of hate speech and unpleasant stuff going on.
What you're saying, Daniel, it's not LinkedIn, it's you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I am. The person I said it to on the spot wasn't very impressed with my response, I have to say.
Did you say it on LinkedIn?
No, they were saying to me, LinkedIn's for this. And they were really having a go at it. And I was like, it's just because you're using it wrong. And it went down like a lead balloon.
How to Win Friends and Influence People by Daniel Wells.
Another one of my special moments. But I think the opportunity there. And actually, it was interesting because we were talking to Brighton SEO, big SEO conference that was started on Twitter, and they said, look, this last year, 2024, was the first year that it wasn't about Twitter. All the conversation was on LinkedIn. They've got their community working on LinkedIn. So I think, for example, you've got various different platforms. You can use them differently. You can use Instagram. You can use Facebook. You can use any of them differently if you just curate your own feed. And I don't think we curate our own feeds enough across the social platforms to turn them into learning opportunities, potentially as well. Now, as part of that, one thing, a tool that's been around for years, and we've mentioned it a dozen times, but I think New Year's a really good time to go back to it if you're not, is Feedly. And all it is a newsreader, but it's a particularly clever one where you can go in and say, I would like to follow, and you select the top blogs or whatever it is that you want, and just curate yourself and your team potentially, because you can share these feeds, all the latest news on that particular topic. And it's how I keep myself up to date. I just dip into my Feedly on a daily basis.
It makes it easier for you, doesn't it? Because you already know what blogs you want to follow. You already know what websites you're going to visit. So they're just all in one place.
Yeah. And it's kind of like you've actually taken your social media and actually just kind of curated it for yourself and just made sure you're getting what you need.
Way more than just social media, though. You can create all the feeds from all your competitors' blogs, for example. Just keep an eye on what they're all doing. You can curate. You did a really smart thing that I've been doing ever since when you told me about it, which is you curated all the press and PR for all the major digital outlets. So, what are Google saying, what are Facebook saying, what are LinkedIn saying. Yeah, they've all got their own PR blogs, and actually all the latest announcements on that, and Apple and operating systems and all that good stuff. No, really, really good. Great time saver. And actually, one of those places I very often go when I'm just looking for fun stuff to read. You wouldn't necessarily think it, but when it's curated like that, it can be quite energizing and invigorating just to stay on top of what's been going on. You can dip in and dip out, can't you, without it like consuming vast amounts of space in your email inbox.
Yeah, I think it's that whole thing of taking a step back. It's like when you go to a conference and you kind of get a bit of fresh perspective on things. I think giving yourself some time and scheduling it into your week to be able to do that is really important as well.
Clearing out clutter as well. I'm just going to throw that in there. Sorry, I'm going left field. That's not even on the coggle, but I'm going there because this morning I discovered I had like 9,000 emails in my inbox that I hadn't even opened. I did a search for no reply at emails. Everybody with a no reply at email address. And I deleted the lot, and it halved the size of my inbox. Because if somebody's written to me and they don't want me to reply back, I don't need the message, do I? It's not important. Really easy way of doing it. Yeah,
I think that's a really good point. I had an experiment with this, an accidental one as well, a couple of years ago, where email has always been a stress point for me. And I remember Tim Ferriss kind of doing an experiment of saying, well, what happens if I just don't reply to any emails? Now, I'm not encouraging this. It's not probably one of your business tactics or a way of getting a career progression if this is your job. But I had a period of time where I was going away and I'd warned all of our clients. I'd had people in place to answer, but I had emails coming in for a month. And then we changed email service, something like that. And a load of stuff just disappeared. I was horrified. I was like, what's going to happen? And what I realized is if it was important, they would send a follow-up email. And if it wasn't important, and I probably did lose a couple of bits of business and upset a couple of people, but compared to the amount of work that was involved, maybe there's, and I'm not just saying, have you ever seen those motivational posters, but the opposite ones, which are the unmotivation posters? And it's a picture of basically a phone with loads of cobwebs, an old-fashioned phone with cobwebs on it, saying maybe if we stop answering, they'll stop calling. I'm not sure that's the best business approach, to say the least. But my point is more, using your email effectively is probably a good way of approaching
brilliant strategy for the new year. We've looked at the data and we've worked out that actually the customer is the problem. So just get rid of all the customers.
Yeah.
And life will be great.
You'll have a really peaceful day. Have a super peaceful day as well. So that would be a very good way of having a very quiet day. Also be bankrupt.
Genius. Yeah.
There you go. Maybe that's not a tip you should listen to. Just on that podcast format piece, we're going to get into this in a moment as well about trying out new ways of doing things. But we are trying out 2 new formats of podcasts. So you're still going to get these ones where the 3 of us are chatting about stuff. You're still going to get the interviews that we do from time to time. But we're also going to do some monologues, which is where each of us at different occasions will have something to talk about, which we just want to get a quick episode, like a 10-minute episode out there as well. And I think just jumping ahead slightly, the reason this is important is if I'm teaching podcasting and someone says, what's the optimum length for a podcast? I always say 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes. Because we know from years and years and years of doing this, that seems to work, and that has worked, and people seem to kind of like it. Kieran's pulling a face. What do you think? What do you think the optimum time is?
No, I don't. I think I've always said it's as long as it needs to be, and you still give value.
Well, that's a great point.
That's the thing. And I mean, I don't disagree with you. I think for us, 20 to 30 minutes has worked quite well, but we've never. I don't think we've ever actively extended a thing. Like for a long time, we've been putting out 10, 12-minute episodes if that's all we needed. And we used to get a lot of really positive feedback from people when they left us reviews, which reminds me, guys, if you haven't left us a review, we love reading them. Really perks up. You really want to raise my energy levels a bit more? Send some reviews in. We love it.
And if you do it, we will basically put you into a prize draw. So targetinternet.com/review. You can submit that you have left us a review, and we'll first of all send you some swag. So we've got some mugs and memory sticks and all sorts of different things as well. So we'll send you some of that stuff. But we've got another giveaway that I'm going to talk about in a second as well. So this was kind of my point, Kieran, was the fact that we kind of say, well, the stats tell me it's 30 minutes on average because we've only ever released 30-minute episodes. Therefore, that's what it's going to tell us. Oh, it works because it has worked. But maybe it's the content, maybe it's the value that's working. Jay Swedelson, who we interviewed at the end of last year, said, I was doing interviews and go, I wouldn't listen to these. Why would someone else want to listen to it? So he started doing 10-minute monologues. And that's against all the rules you're told. But actually, he went number one in the US because his energy level, the value he provided kind of worked. So I think culture of learning, but culture of experimentation and innovation is something we all need to think about in the year ahead. Now, with that culture of learning in mind, we have just published our schedule for two things. One is our free live updates. So our free live updates, if you're not aware, is once a month, a 1-hour session with me on a live kind of update about a particular topic. SEO algorithms, social media changes, email stats, those kind of things. They are free to anyone that is subscribed to our newsletter. So targetinternet.com/newsletter. You can go and see the schedule for the year ahead. There's all sorts of different topics being covered in there. And if you go in and you sign up to the newsletter, we're doing a giveaway. So today, which is January the 3rd, while we were recording this of 2025, I have a new book out. So the latest, the 4th edition of Digital Branding. And I'm not going to try and flog you a book at all, but it came out today. It's a little bit of a celebration. I have got a load of copies coming in. So if you sign up to the newsletter, we're just going to randomly grab a load of people that sign up to the newsletter and send out some free books as well. And we'll do that for some of you that we've got lots of people that engage with us constantly on across social media and so on. So we're going to try and reward some of those people a little bit as well. So you'll probably be quite disappointed. You get an exciting parcel you weren't expecting, and it's a book inside as well. But there you go. So we'll send some of those out shortly. So we've got our live updates published, but we've also got our masterclasses. So for subscribers, so Target Internet subscribers, £20 a month, come on. And you get a half-day masterclass every month, at least a half day. We're doing more than that actually as well. And we're doing some really interesting ones coming up. So we've got an advanced prompting one, which I've done tons of research for, which is really fun. We've got an email one coming up, which we haven't spoken about, like an email masterclass in ages as well. We've got other content strategy, SEO, all that kind of stuff. So get involved and help build your culture of learning.
People still sign up for free for a short period as well.
Yeah, it's still free for 30 days.
There you go.
So you can get in there and try it out.
Come on, it's the gift that keeps on giving. Just get in there, try it out.
So let's move on to the next thing to focus on, resolution for the year. And that was focusing on creative and planning creative. And I think we should be spending more time planning now than previously. And the logic behind that is that, yes, doing is important, but we're going to come to a stat in 2 episodes' time where we're looking at the Hootsuite Trends for 2025 report. And one of the stats that came out was 80-something% of marketers say that generative AI is helping them to publish levels of content they never could have published before. And it's like, oh, is that a good thing? I'm not sure it is.
Not, because we've all seen the end result of that, which is a tsunami of fairly like the same type of stuff coming at us from.
Well done for not swearing. That was very good. Yeah. I keep swearing when I'm talking about the tsunami of some things.
Hey, they all know what I was thinking. They all know.
Yeah. So I think there's 2 things going on. There is that generative AI bit. There's also, yes, getting stuff out there is important, but if it's not cutting through, it's just drowning in the noise, it's not important. But also this no-click reality, and I've touched on this before, but I just want to recap because I think this is such a focus for the coming months. The algorithms across social platforms are discouraging you from clicking to external websites because if you put a post up with a link in it, they're kind of giving it less visibility. we don't want to leave the social platforms necessarily in many cases because it's just, it's a different format. And I had a thought about that, which was that's probably because the way that we're writing blog posts and articles isn't very good at the moment because it kind of gets in the way. It doesn't cut straight into the action. It doesn't get straight into the content. It's not divided down nicely. It's not easy to consume necessarily. What that then leads to is attribution problems in that if you didn't click from the social post and it wasn't one of the 5 clicks in the journey, I can't attribute any value to it. And I think really what this is showing us is something that's always been there. And you've spoken about this, Kieran, for years, and we've discussed it, Louise, which is there are always loads of steps in the journey we didn't know about anyway. You've looked at a website, you maybe looked at a review website, we didn't know about that. You spoke in a forum, you looked at a Reddit subreddit about the topic. All this stuff happened and we're not even aware of it. And you spoke to your friend in the pub about it and, whatever it might be. So that no-click reality and this huge level of content means more than ever this thing on saying, how can I do something truly creative that's really interesting, that's engaging? And I just go back to, let's think about what advertising was like in the 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever it was. It's like, how can you do something that resonates so much with your audience and is so clever and is so focused for your audience that it just cuts through? Because that was the job of advertising execs. And actually, you can apply that to content. You can apply that to social media. And I always come back to the Rand Fishkin 10X thing, but also he said that doesn't work anymore because the algorithms don't necessarily recommend that stuff, but it does create word of mouth and it does go through and get spoken about. So it's hopefully creating at least the signals from an organic point of view that might help us as well.
There's not so much of that. And when you see things that have taken off, I was very inspired by Guinness. There was a Guinness shortage in the UK just before Christmas, and they think it was caused by, what do they call it? Crossing the G?
Splitting the G.
Splitting the G. Yeah, splitting the G.
So if people don't understand, you should explain that what the idea is that you gulp your Guinness, but you stop, and so when the Guinness settles,
you need
and it splits.
Guess when it's going to be halfway through the G. So you split the G on
your
the
Guinness glass that has the Guinness written on it.
Yeah, and it caused a lot of upset. There's a lot of regular Guinness drinkers were very upset that these young whippersnappers coming and drinking all their beer. Yeah.
Did you hear about a lorry got hijacked? A lorry full of Guinness was actually hijacked and stolen because of it.
Oh my God.
But what a creative thing, right? And actually back in the day, that would have been the sort of thing that would have been an advertising campaign. It was that whole, if you see Sid, tell him. I think that was a BT.
It was a BT. It was the BT shares sales.
Yeah.
And it became an expression as well.
Yeah,
but the thing is, it was virality back then was an easy thing to do because if you get something catching into mass media, it might catch on. Whereas now, it's maybe not as easy.
You know what? I think it's even easier because no one out there is trying to do it. I think it was Harry Enfield, a British comedian, did a Dime Bar advert. And it was armadillos, crunchy on the outside, soft and chewy on the inside. I mean, it was, look it up, like the armadillo ad.
We'll put the link into the show notes.
Genius. So simple. Ridiculous, really. But I remember at the time, everybody was talking about it.
The thing is that those are memes.
Yeah.
Those are memes. But the half-life of a meme now is so much shorter. That's kind of the problem.
I guess. But then maybe that's just because it gets caned on social media. Like maybe if it went a bit more mainstream, it wouldn't be.
I think they expire so quickly because so many people jump on them.
Well, that's the next point.
Yeah, it's actually not related to their brand at all. And actually, unless you can see the value in what you're doing, you shouldn't really just be posting content for the sake of it.
And they can become an albatross quite quickly. Like if I was to go, what's up? Like there was a time when that was cool. Now it would just be, oh my God, Kieran, move on.
Yeah, but this is the thing in my house, because if you use a meme in my house, my 22-year-old will talk about a meme. My 14 is like, oh, you're still talking about that? And it's become a thing. And then it's like,
So this morning.
Yeah, exactly. And it is a bit like that. So, but this is an important point into our next New Year's resolutions, which was don't follow the herd. And the point of this is, for example, and I've spoken about it, and when I was interviewing a few people, we've spoken about it, she's like, you need to be authentic. And we suddenly saw all these B2B brands, their CEO on a director camera, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It works. It was great. It humanized the brand. But if you're just sitting there using social media monitoring to identify what a trend is and then jumping on it, you're never going to come up with a trend and you're never going to own it. And it's never going to be your thing, and it will never have quite the same level. So I think it's a little bit dangerous that all we're ever doing is going, oh, there's this particular trend, we need to do it. And exactly what Lou was saying, and the whole point about it's got nothing related to my brand whatsoever. So it's just, I'm just doing it for the sake of being involved in the conversation.
Be like a daily hall of shame of people that have just jumped on the wrong bandwagon, and frankly, it's embarrassing. I see it all the time. It's one of the biggest mistakes I think so-called with it brands are making. Some of the ways they try and leverage on a thing are just, it's just so unfunny. It's painful.
I would say with this as well, it's constantly about the memes and the social media trends, but actually, come back to our previous points maybe, is that maybe experiment with format, duration, layout, content formats, all those kind of things as well, because it's very easy when you're working within corporate guidelines and brand guidelines just to stick to doing the things the same way. Sometimes you've got to be a bit brave and you've got to push the boundaries of those kind of things. But that being brave doesn't mean that if you're a corporate brand, you suddenly have to be really kind of TikToky and kind of, it could just be actually change your video content to explain the videos. Or instead of doing white papers, do carousels that have got the 5 key salient points in them or something else like that. And I would just think about how people consume media. And I always come back to that BBC Good Food story, which is if you look at a BBC Good Food recipe, why they're successful is it goes, here are the ingredients, here's the cooking time, here's some reviews, here's a step-by-step. It just cuts straight into the content. And suddenly that's a brilliant format because that's actually what people want.
See, some tried and tested formats just work. Why reinvent the wheel? I think where a lot of it goes wrong in my book is people they're not really thinking who are they doing it for. Like it always goes south pretty quick, I think, when the brand's just trying to show something about themselves. No one cares. Like you need to express yourself through other people and other things. Don't try and be the brand that's always cool or hip or always funny or always on the latest trends, because it's all about you. And as we know this with the podcast content, if we were to make it all about us, it wouldn't work. It's never about, our podcasts are all about giving you value added marketers that are listening and so that they can make use of that information. It's never about us. In fact, going back to like content format, I used to spend hours cutting stuff of me out of interviews that I'd done because it was just too long with it. And it was just, I know it's not why people listen in. Like, my job if I'm interviewing somebody is just to be the catalyst to let them share lots of cool stuff. Very often when you're talking, you end up like reminiscing and going into stories of your own type stuff. And that's fine when you're recording, but don't keep it in there.
Well, I think there's a time and a place for it.
Yeah,
right?
sometimes. Occasionally stuff sneaks in, doesn't it? But it's all about totally focusing on your audience and what's in it for them. And yeah, it might be something you're really proud of that you've done, but you've got to ask yourself, does anyone else care? And if they don't, take it out. You do. You just have to be really quite hard-nosed about these things, I think. And it will make the content better. Definitely.
But I think as well, like, I think posting on TikTok is great and posting content that goes viral and stuff is great if it works for your brand. But there's a difference between having an audience on those platforms and having a community. And just because your content is going viral doesn't mean that you've actually got value exchange or two-way communication with your audience. And you should make sure that you're also focusing on platforms where people can actually speak back to you, because you need to make sure that you're getting feedback as well and that you're speaking with your customers.
I think it's a brilliant point. And I also think that what's happened is because TikTok and Reels and YouTube Shorts have become entertainment platforms. Like instead of watching TV, instead of doing whatever people are doing, they've started just sitting there and entertaining themselves. Brands have decided that, we need to be entertaining. Now, if that entertainment is related to your brand, then maybe that's fine, right? But if you're a B2B brand, it's more that education is probably going to be important. Now, and hopefully a podcast is slightly entertaining and is, provides value as well. But going down that route of just trying to be purely entertainment when that's not really related to what you do, I think is a bit of a dangerous tack to go on, because it means you're completely off brand. And although the trends that we're going to talk about in a couple of episodes' time actually show that's what a lot of marketers are really trying to focus on, I think you end up in this little dangerous cycle of like, we need to be more entertaining than those kind of content creators. That's whole job is to create entertaining content. And I think we've got to be careful because we quite often have a dig at influencers, but I think there is this point of actually good content creators are looking at how they do entertaining stuff. And if it's entertaining, it's original and so on, then brilliant. That provides value in its own right. Whereas actually the whole older school thing of saying, here's this great product and you should buy this product and you should buy it because I'm using it, I think that's kind of served its purpose, and maybe it's very limited now as well. And I don't want to set Kieran off again on this. It's like lighting a fuse paper.
I am saying nothing.
So create a culture of learning. Focus on creative planning and don't follow the herd. Think about how you might do things slightly differently. To help you with that, targetinternet.com/newsletter. You're going to get those live updates. They're completely free. Get access to those. And if you want to leave us a review, targetinternet.com/review, and we will send you some merchandise. And our mugs, by the way, I like to think of them as, and this won't make any sense if you're not in the UK, but if you buy a Sports Direct mug, it's like a bucket, right? And I don't think it's a nice receptacle for the volume of tea or coffee you can get into it. But I would suggest ours is like a sophisticated Sports Direct mug because they are massive, but in a slightly more demure kind of way and sophisticated way as well. So if you would like the equivalent of one of these very demure Sports Direct mugs, then and they're beautiful to look at, and there's different colours. They're all kind of limited edition as well. So
I like to think about our mugs as well, but only because I don't have one.
Oh yeah, I can't believe this. I can't believe the fact you didn't even know that we had placemats that have got your face on them.
No, completely passing by.
So you can put your mug on the
other white. Yeah, that would be amazing, wouldn't it?
Have I still not shipped you any?
No.
I blame Louise for that. I'm sure I said to her she should send you some.
Oops.
Yeah, I'm sure she did. I'm lying, Louise, by the way, completely. I'm going to send you all sorts of things, Kieran. I'm going to send you a mug, a placemat, stickers, laptop stickers, memory sticks.
Kieran, if you leave us a review, we'll send you some mugs.
Oh my gosh, I should so do that.
Okay, well, if you don't ever see us in the charts again, it's because Kieran got us banned by leaving himself a review. So thank you for listening to the Digital Marketing Podcast.
I'll blame Louise. She suggested it.
And we'll speak to you again soon. For more episodes, resources, to leave a review, or to get in contact, go to targetinternet.com/podcast.